Hello and welcome back to Tala 101. This time we're going to cover RFS 4 or Right Kick. This is Hwoarang's fastest mid and right flamingo stance, and they made a couple of changes with this. Number one is the zoom in. You really feel the oomph when you throw out RFS 4. This never happened before in older Tekken, so now you know in Tekken 8, if you throw out RFS 4, you feel it. And the opponent gets zoomed away to like the other side of the screen, which also never happened before because the distance for our RFS 4 before, if you hit the opponent with it, was more or less like this after Peacekeeper. So that's two big differences. Well, the zoom in, not so much. But the biggest thing here about, RFS 4 is the full screen distance, because now you can get some really deadly Oki for as long as your timing is right, because that's running Okizeme. So of course, let's review the frame data of Right Kick. Again, this comes out at 14 frames. If it hits the opponent, it's a knockdown straight to the other side of the screen, and it's negative 13 on block, and Hwoarang will always go back to right foot forward after doing this move. Now let's zoom in on this negative 13. This move in older Tekkens used to be negative 14. Negative 14 means more characters in the game could potentially launch punish Hwoarang for throwing out this move. So like if you really wanted to check you with RFS 4, his risk was, get launched. So that was like characters like Paul, Law, all the Mishimas, Jin, Devil Jin, Heihachi, Kazuya. And of course, 14 frame punishes mean like even if you're not getting launched for this move, characters were still getting a pretty juicy punish on RFS 4. I mean, like, your reward was basically just, a wall splat or a knockdown. And not, of course, not that far out distance, but this far out distance. That was pretty much it into, like, standard Okizeme. Now, it being negative 13 reduces your risk because, generally speaking, the type of punish you're taking from most opponents is a heat engager. So if you throw out RFS 4 now, you're typically just going to get hit by a heat engager. And of course, if heat was already active, that's going to be a heat dash into a follow-up or a combo. And then if it's just a regular heat activation, this is a 50-50 situation where you can guess. Your best case scenario, of course, is interrupting their offense and guessing right there to make it now like your offense. Let's say you, of course, like block a hell sweep and then you get like wall standing 2-3, right? If not that, then of course blocking the 50-50, let's say they go for a really safe option. Let's say they just do F4 into like down back 1. Then you can like sidestep left and then you go back to neutral. So the risk has dropped significantly. And off the top of my head, only 2 characters can launch punish Hwoarang for this move. I think that's Kazuya and Reina, because both of these characters have a 13 frame launcher from standing like that. As you can see, the punish indicator for Kazuya pops up. So that's a 13 frame God Fist. However, if you throw out RFS 4 at a specific distance, and by specific distance, I mean max range, that punish is whiffing. So like if they get hyper focusing on like, oh, I can launch that, and they have a 13 frame God Fist, you can take advantage of the fact like, hey, I threw this out at max range and I get a punish for like you attempting to punish this move. So maybe time to study the max range of RFS 4 so that you can make punishes with. And again, like all you're taking is a heat engager if you're not playing Kazuya or Reina, generally speaking, right? So that sounds pretty good for RFS 4. The next thing is where this move tracks. So this move generally tracks versus sidestep right and sidewalk right after certain moves. So the number is basically +3. So like if you do 1, 2, 4, right, and you thought RFS 4, Kazuya is gonna get hit there, right? Standard sidestep. And of course, if you do it off 2, 4, also loses. And then of course, if we increase it to, let's say, +5, you do RFF 4 forward, yeah, they're gonna get hit. Maybe RFF 2, 4 as well. Yeah, still gets hit versus sidestep right. However, there are specific frames or moves wherein it doesn't catch versus sidestep right. I'm talking about something like up 4. So it caught there. We're gonna reset this. You see that? Clean. Which means you needed to be a little bit off axis for RFS 4 to connect versus sidestep right. But if it was straight axis, up 4 is not hitting there. Another move you want to check is down back 4 into RFS 4, because this does whiff at times. So again, you're gonna highly matchup dependent, but just know that it can whiff, because it's gonna whiff all the more the moment we boost this to sidewalk right. We're gonna throw out down back 4 again, and there you go, it's just gone. And of course, at +3, it will still catch here off 1, 2, 4, and 2, 4. Very consistent in that situation. It's just that the others you have to be really wary. Of course, again, we boost this to +5. You throw out RFF 4 forward into it. That's when this move starts to whiff again. So it's like, okay, I have more frames, but my opponent can like just walk right and take away RFS 4 when it's like my fastest mid options. Like, when can the opponent not walk my option? Oh, the only time they can really walk it is when you're +8. They can't walk it at all. So like Kazuya attempted to like sidewalk right there. And if we tell Kazuya to like walk to the other side, he can't even move. So +8 basically makes RFS 4 homing in quotation marks. Because every other situation, right? Again, this is sidewalk left. Now you'll just basically start to lose. So if they walk towards the left and not even bother step towards the right, well, Hwoarang's not catching Kazuya at all. Like, so don't rely on this move to catch sidestep / sidewalk left. It only generally catches sidestep / sidewalk right. And of course, it's highly dependent on like which move you did it off first. Now, let's talk about this move on hit, which is the biggest change to RFS 4. Number one is that since it's full screen and you have the timing, you can get running Oki. So again, double tap forward and hold the last forward to get running Oki. So your timing really matters here because if you mess up the timing, right, you won't get the running Oki. So I'm trying to mess it up right now. No, my muscle memory is definitely locked into like succeeding here. Like that. So that's like tapping too many forwards. Of course, you can have a variation of this even if you like just double tap forward as well. But yeah, if you don't have the timing down of when your recovery frames occur, or like when it's available to you, right, so like you can move after RFS 4, you may not run immediately. And that just wastes like the brand new Okizeme situation you can get for Hwoarang here. The other thing is that, yes, it's running Oki, but that running Oki is very particular because you need space to pull off this running Oki. So roughly around this point, you can still get running Oki here even if the wall's right there. So it's just a question of like what's the distance for that? So we're gonna move behind Kazuya's back here. So that's 1 backdash, 2 backdash, 3 backdash, 4 backdash, maybe 4.5, like 5 backdashes. So maybe roughly 4 to 5 backdashes. We're just gonna dash in front of Kazuya's face once, right? I think I dashed a little bit too much, so that's maybe a dash and a half. And we're gonna running Oki. So more or less within that range, 4, 5-ish backdashes away from the wall, or even 3.5 is when you can get this running Oki. Because of course, if they're too close to the wall, which is I guess 3 less backdashes towards the wall, right? You may not get this running Oki. So you still get that running Oki there and push them a little bit more close, right? So even if you get the inputs right, your run is gonna get interrupted. To be very careful about the distance there. And the next thing about this move is that, of course, it wall breaks, will cause wall blasts and whatnot. So it activates the stage gimmicks. Because again, it wall splats the opponent. And generally speaking, you're getting around 55 damage. So we're gonna do like different wall combos with like increasing damage, right? So this is like your standard one where you go right plasma blade into like the regular B&B. So you're sitting roughly at 58. That's pretty good. If you want to increase that, you do 2 hits, right? And then you change your ender. And now you boot up to like 63. Then if you want to make this even better, what you do is you resplat the opponent. And that's 1 point away from it. So that means you cannot use the regular wall B&B as your ender. So you need to change that ender into up 3. So again, you resplat with RFS 4-4. And then end with up 3. 64 damage, way higher. And then if you want to get it even higher, again, it's still resplat, but then you just wait for the opponent to, you know, fall off the wall. You throw out backlash. And then at that point, you're running away with a lot of damage. So your ceiling is around 70 plus. Your floor is somewhere around 55. So the reward for throwing out this move, even at the wall, is pretty high. And getting the wall splat too, or resplat rather, is pretty easy. Most especially if you're like attempting to do RFS 4 from like max range. That resplat is pretty easy to get. And that's 74 damage. After that, like, if you don't get the splat, if you don't get the running Oki, it's like, what can you get if this move connects? Well, what you're gonna be getting is basically what you were getting in older Tekkens. Standard right foot forward Oki, because again, he goes to right foot forward after this move. So again, it doesn't flat here, right? And the first thing you can lock them in place with is RFF DF3. If you just want to stay in place and like wait for them to wake up, it's a really good option. And if not that, you can always just walk up and like RFS back 2. Again, walk up down back 4, walk up down 3-4, like standard Oki. Because they have nowhere to go. It's gotten better in Tekken 8. So again, in general, this move is the fastest mid in Right Flamingo Stance. So again, if your opponent's interrupting you in some situations, you may need to like throw out RFS 4 instead of RFS F4, most especially if like they were crouching and not standing, right? And it has higher reward now because, again, it becomes running Oki right away. If it splats the wall, the damage is insane. And the risk has decreased significantly because, again, at max range, you still maintain the distance. Like, again, Kazuya's down back 1-2 and his God Fist do whiff here. But of course, if you're playing against somebody who has that and you did not space it out properly, then yes, this could be a pretty big risk because that's again going to be a launch. But again, off the top of my head, that's still just 2 characters in the entire cast. So again, that's everything I know about RFS 4 or Right Kick. That's been the lesson for this video. Again, I've been Frontier, and thank you for watching.